We're going to start with our neck, looking down, trying to separate each vertebra in the neck, and then look to the right, rotate around, back, up, around, and down. Now look to the left, and repeat the same thing the other direction. Again, look right, and then now look to the left. Now we're going to move on to the thoracic spine, that's the upper spine. Try to separate each vertebra as you bend over, and stretch those vertebrae out. And then we look to the right, around, back, up, around, and down. And then from the down position, we look to the left. And again, you're trying to keep your head stable and just rotate the spine. Rotate to the right, around, back, up, and down. And then rotate to the left. And then around, back, up, and down. And yes, I know this looks clunky, you'll get used to it. Now we're going to move on to the scapula. Trying to keep your hands straight and not allowing any internal or external rotation in your shoulders. You're going to bring up, back, down, back, up, forward, down. Back, up, forward, down. Now we're moving on to the shoulder. Internally rotate your hand, bring across your midline and up, keeping that palm facing up. Bring it up to the side of your head, and then back. When you get back and you can't rotate anymore, then do an internal rotation with your arm all the way around so that the back of your hand is pointing towards your hips. And then bring it back. Same thing when you hit the sticking point. Now you internally rotate. Bring that back around and back across the midline and down. And again, you want to keep your elbows and you want to keep your scapula and want to try to keep absolutely everything in line. All you want really to move is the GH joint. And it's very difficult. So, well, it certainly is for me. But stick with it. It's not just a big circle making competition, as I mentioned. Again, back and around. Then moving on to the other arm. Internally rotate. Raise your arm up across your midline, up near your head. Move it back when you get to the sticking point. Then you're going to initiate the rotation to bring your hand in. Now moving back, same thing, when you hit the sticking point, then you start to rotate your arm so that you can get around. And again, you really want to feel all of the joint. Trying to imagine that you are pushing the fluid in your joints around. This will make more sense when you hear the explanation at the end of the video. Back, rotate, up, across the midline, and then back down. Now, moving on to the elbows, trying to keep your shoulders in place and your wrists also unmoving. You're going to hands up, hands down, down. Now the other way, back of your hands leading the motion. Now we're going to do our wrists. In, back, out, down, in, back, out, down, out, back, in, down, etc. Now we're going to move up against the wall or grab onto something for stability, and we're going to work on our hips. Trying to keep the leg at a 90-degree angle throughout the entire movement. We internally rotate, then rotate the hip out, externally rotate, and then bring it back into hip extension, and then bring it back through hip extension, rotate, back up, feeling the entire hip capsule. And you'll notice that I have my foot pointing inside. That's internally rotated. So you need to keep it internally rotated until you hit the maximal point of your hip, and then externally rotate to get through to the back part of the movement. So we're externally rotated here, bring it in, start to internally rotate to bring your foot around and in. And now you'll see it from the other side as we do the other leg. Start to externally rotate there to get that hip around. And as you can see, I'm trying to keep my leg at 90 degrees, but I'm having difficulty at this point. That's something that I continue to work on. So it's okay to have these sorts of things where you're not perfect. It's just trying to improve each time that you do them. And as you gain more muscular control and get used to the movement, it does get easier. But the first couple times I did these were really, really hard. Now that we've done our hips, we're going to go do our knees. And so we're going to put our foot and our knee at 90 degrees. And as you can see, I'm rotating my foot in and out and working through the contraction and extension movement of the leg. You'll really feel this in your knees if you have creaky knees. This feels absolutely great on mine, especially with all the problems that I have. Same thing on the other side now. As you can see, I internally rotate, contract the hamstring, rotate, extend, rotate, contract, rotate, extend. And now I'm going to go back up in the opposite direction and contract, internally rotate, then extend, contract, internally rotate, extend, externally rotate, contract. And you'll see what I mean. But you can actually feel these on your ACL and your MCL when you're doing them. Now we just move our patella up and down. That's the kneecap, so you pop your kneecap up and down a few times and then move it from side to side a few times. This is kind of analogous to the scapula movements that we were doing earlier. And now we're going to move on to our ankles and our feet. For the ankles, I'm keeping my toes up and trying to keep things at 90 degrees there. And I'm also trying not to allow my knee to move and just only allow the ankle itself to move. As you can see, it's quite a difficult movement, especially when you're putting your own resistance into it. This isn't a reflection of me being super clunky. This is because I'm actually putting resistance into it and trying to feel my joints, like the bones against the bones within the joints. We do these both one rotation and then in the other direction as well for both feet. Now here I'm lifting my toes up, just the big toe first, and I usually do these about 4 times, and then we move on to just everything but the big toe. And on these ones, my feet actually crack. It's quite a gross sound, but if that sort of thing happens, you just push through, it's fine. Then we bring all our toes up and we just push the big toes down 4 times. And then now what we're going to do is we're going to spread our toes out as much as possible and try to bring our toes down one by one. This is very, very difficult, and it will take some time to get used to, for most people anyways. And then once this is done, that's the entire morning routine. Okay everyone, so I made this video because I cannot emphasize enough what a game changer this has been for me. Hopefully you can avoid becoming a stiff old man like me before actually becoming one by knowing this stuff. I seriously wish that I learned this stuff about 30 years ago. That said, the best time to get started is always in the past. The second best time is right now, so here we are. So CARS stands for Controlled Articular Rotations, which is basically the innermost part of our joints is actually called the joint capsule, and it's filled with a fluid. This fluid lubricates the joints and provides nutrition, etc., to the joint itself. It doesn't circulate this fluid in there. The only way that it gets moved around is by expression, which means basically getting squeezed around And when it gets squeezed around, then it gets replaced by new fluid. If it doesn't get squeezed around, then the stuff that's inside of it just starts to harden up. And that's how we become stiff old people. What this program does is it shows you how to go through all of your joints in a very methodical manner to shove all the fluid around on a daily basis. This makes sure that you don't become really stiff. And one of the things that you have to remember when you're trying to do this is that you're trying to explore the joint capsule. So, what that means is you want to move your joints, not your limbs, through as much range of motion as possible to squeeze that fluid around. So, if you can just imagine when you're moving stuff around that you're trying to explore the full inside of your joints rather than just moving, like I'm not thinking about moving my hand here, I'm thinking about actually feeling the bones inside moving around the joints. This is about, moving that fluid around inside the joint. It's not just like a big circle making competition or something. Another thing that you need to keep in mind while you're doing these is that you want to try to keep all of your joints, neighboring joints, stationary while you're doing it. So you'll notice when I'm doing my leg stuff that I try to keep, when I'm doing my hips, for example, I try to keep my knee bent at 90 degrees throughout the entire motion. That prevents it from moving around. It's very hard to do. As you probably see, I do have a slight extension when I come into the back hip extension part. But it's a matter of trying to do it, and as opposed to actually getting it right all the time. I mean, hopefully I'll get better with time, but I'm pretty new to this stuff myself. You have to provide your own resistance or challenge when you're doing this too. So, like, you're not just sitting there going flopping around, right? You actually have to put tension in through your hand and explore in through the joint, or put tension, in through your arms and explore the movement there. It's not just a matter of going through the motions, as I said. It's much more, and that's the reason why I say explore. Like, you really have to try to find out exactly what to find those places yourself and to move that fluid around. Right? If you just bear that in mind when you're trying to do this, then I think that you'll probably get the idea. Anyway, I do these every day, every morning, and I actually change the time that I wake up in order to be able to do these. They're that important to me. Um, the In addition to just, like, improving my movement in terms of walking around and feeling better, I feel awesome because I've started it in the morning, and it kind of gets things flowing around, but it's not like doing aerobic exercise. So when you do this, things kind of feel, I don't know, for lack of better expression, cleansed. And it feels like things are flowing a little bit nicer, and by the same token, it's not aerobic, so it's not like your heart rate is up or anything like that. It's a very calming, nice way to start the day. And I've also noticed, most importantly perhaps, that in my lifting, this has actually really improved things. If you can imagine when you're opening a big old rusty door, how much force that requires just to get things moving. And then if you compare that with a door that's, like, on well lubricated hinges, it's a totally different experience. And that's basically the equivalent of what's happening inside my body, I feel. So a lot of the force that I was producing in my muscles was being lost to friction in my joints, which then meant that I wasn't able to transfer power as nicely. And now my lifts are actually going up, like, quite a lot. And I honestly, like, I hope you can see just in my face, but I did not believe that that would actually happen, and seeing it happen is amazing. So this has actually really improved my performance in the gym, and that's another reason why I recommend this so much. It's not just about preventing getting old and crusty. It's about actually improving your performance now, and that's super cool. Um, so yeah, that's the morning routine. This is called the morning cars routine. I hope that you will incorporate this into your life. I have created this video. I'm going to put the explanation at the end so that you can just get started on it and don't have to watch the explanation every single time. And yeah, I hope that you guys will do this and find similar benefits to what I've found, because, like, as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to tell everyone I know about this, and I am going to, do my best to keep emphasizing. Oh, one other thing that we can do is by going through these motions, often you'll find places where you get stuck. For example, you saw with my right arm that I don't like when I'm moving around in the shoulder that I have some problems there. And because I know that I have these problems, then what I can do is I can use the other stuff that I've learned to learn how to, or to try to correct that problem. So if you find that there are points in your routine that you're having difficulty working through, or there are parts that are sticky or don't feel as good as the other ones, then please let me know, and I will give you exercises to correct those or to work on improving them. Because again, this is going to result in better training for you. And yeah, as I said, I just want to tell the whole world about this stuff. Even though I did not expect this to be the result when I took the class, I am so thrilled that I took this, and I'm really, really happy that I'm able to share this with you. So I hope it helps you as much as it's helped me. I'm going to leave it at that. Take care.